This is Gemara Shavuos Daf Chof Beis. I'm rolling on Chof Aleph Amid Beis. 3 lines from the bottom as we're wrapping up the first Mishnah of this parak, and we'd like to once again dedicate all the incredible zchusim of Talmud Torah Berabim as a refuah shalema for Tinok ben Miriam Ahuva b'soich sha'ar chayle Yisrael. So we're 3 lines on the bottom as we quote the end of the Mishnah that they say to Rabbi Akiva. Omar, Omru Leila Rabbi Akiva. Heichan Matzino. Where do we find that you can be chayav for a kol shehu? Ask the Gemara, really? What's your kasha? Viloi. Varenim mala. If you eat an ant is also kol shehu and you're chayiv. Answers Gemara, Beria Shaini. It's a full creation. Vari hektish. In the case of hektish, if you eat something worth a pruta, you're chayiv, even though it's not a kizayis. Habi inan shava pruta. So it might not be a kizayis, but it has its own quantity. Vare mefarish. If you specify that you're not allowed to eat even a mashu, then you're chayiv for eating a mashu. Mefarish nami kiberi adami, which of course gives a little bit of insight into the lumdis. When someone is mefarish, if someone articulates that he's making a shvuah not to eat even a little bit, why is he chayiv for that mashu? The Gemara is teaching us because it's as if you ate an entire entity who's a barrier. Is that what you said is a creation? Ask the Gemara, very afar. But if someone eats dirt, if you made a shvuah not to eat afar, chayyur you're chayiv even for the smallest amount. Ella says the Gemara, tiv shai debayirav. As we turn over to Chav Beis Amid Aleph, says the Gemara, let's answer up a shayla that Rava asked. The Bahi Rava. Rava asked, Shvuah shlo yochal ve'ochal afar. Bikama. How much is dirt? Tifshut. We should answer Adik Kizayis. Answers the Gemara, Ki kamrina b'midi devar achila kamrinan. And dirt is not an entity that you normally eat. Very kainamo. It's kanamas nami. Kimefarish dami. And we continue quoting how Rabbi Akiva responded to the Chachamim. Amr lemech masinu b'midaber or maybe carbon, samidam maybe carbon. Rabbi Akiva retorts, and where do we find that there's a carbon for that which you said? Ask the Gemara, loi veloi vari megadef. But what about a case of someone who's blasphemous? He curses, he has to bring a carbon. Answers the Gemara, midaber va'isir kamrinan. Talking about someone who speaks and makes something aser. But someone who is a megadef is not a medaber va'oimer. He is a megaber. The words are the aveira. Very nazir. Says Gemara, maybe carbon al diburai karmin. You have to bring carbon for your words. And the nazir doesn't, but rather for the nazir. Maybe carbon lishtarui le chamra. A nazir brings a carbon to permit wine. Who? To come icy. Very hektish. Excuse me, we're talking about something you make usher to yourself, whereas hektish is an entity, it's usher to the whole world too. So after the Gemara can't find the precedent, the Gemara continues in discussing this machlekes Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. Amar Rava, 12 lines down, the first one line is Amar Rava. Machlekes bistam. This machlekes, what is the quantity that you're chayiv is bistam? Aval b'mefaresh, divrei akol b'cholshu. But if it's mefaresh, if someone articulates, then everyone agrees that is chayiv even for a kolshu, a minute amount. My taima says Gemara, as we saw on the bottom of Amid Beis, as we started today's shir, mefaresh nami kiberi adami. V'amar Rava machlekes b'shaloi oichal. If he says I won't eat something. Aval b'shlei etam, I won't taste. Again, what is a team? What is a taste? B'kolshu. Says the Gemara Pshita. So ma'u detema, you know what I would have thought? Ma'u detema, I would have thought, l'tayim nami, even tasting is kadamri inchi. Tasting is like people talk about it, which is that you actually have to eat something. People say, oh, let me taste this, but they mean eat it. So maybe it still should be a kazayis. Kamash v'lan not. Amar papa machlokes b'shvuos. So statement number 1 of this shtickle Torah was the Gemara saying was Rava. That Rava taught us that what is this machlekes of Akiva the Chacham is bistam, but mefarish tevar kol b'chol shu. Now comes like Rav Papa, and Rav Papa teaches us Machlokes is what? B'shvuos, aval b'koinamos, divrei hakol b'kolshu. When it comes to a different form of an oath, a koinam, then everyone agrees it's a kolshu. My time, koinam is nami kima deloika midkar shemei da'achila. Since you didn't use the terminology of achila, of eating, it's as if you're mefarish, it's as if you spoke out that it's going to even be a minute amount. Meisvei asked the Gemara, Shnei koinamas mitzdarfin. Two koinamas combined, Shnei Shavuos, ein mitzdarfin, me'amar koinamas kishvuos. So what's the kasha? Articulates the Gemara, what do you mitzarif? Mitzarif means that you combine to equal a shear. But if you're chayiv for a kol shu, like to be mitzarif. Says the Gemara, Amar achila mizu alai koinam. Achila mizu alai koinam. So since you use both terminologies, therefore it's mitzarif. Yachi amai mitzarif, yisoif zoif. Zilahacha like a shear, zilahacha like a shear. So what's the mitzarif? If you have a shear, you never got there. Says Gemara, Amar achila mishteya. So it says, I'm making a shvuah from eating from both of them, alai koinam. The conversation got shvuah, some shvuah shleicha mishteyim. So says the Gemara, amayin mitzarfin. But so by a shvuah, why would it not be mitzarif? Why is this a special din by a koinam? Amar Rabinchas explains Rabinchas shani shvuos mitoch shechlukais lechata'is ein mitzarfis. Says the Gemara, 1 second. So you're telling me a shvuah is different. Iachi, third wide line, Ramir Kanamas kishvuais. So bish lama shvuais hoyel. V'chaluk is lechata'is. Ela koinamais amai loi. Says the Gemara, why by koinamais do they not combine? Says Gemara, you're right. Less like the Rav Pinchas. Continues the Gemara with a second way of answering Ravina Amar Kikam Rav Papalini Malkus. When the Rabbi say his din that if you call shu of a kainam, your chayiv is only by Malkus. Kitanya he when there was the price talking about leaning carbon to be in Shava Pruta. Lememra to Savar Rabbanan Yish Ila Bekainamais. Sounds like there's going to be a carbon, there's going to be a dinner Meila of deconsecration of Atani, but there's in a Braisa. Kik or Zu Hektish Vachla Beinu Ben Chavirai Ma Lafikach. Yesh La Pidin. Kik or Zu Alai Hektish Areu Mal Chavirai Loi Mal. Therefore, what? Lefikach ein la opinion. Divrei Rabbi Meir. We turn over to the Beis and say the Chachamim. The Chachamim Mrim. Beinu bein chaveroi lo mal if ein mila bekoina mois. So ask the Gemara. Seemingly, these two contradict each other. So explains the Gemara. You're right. Epoch, you got to switch it around. Echad zeh vechad zeh lo mal if ein mila bekoina mois. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Chamim Mrim huma v'chaver lo mal yachir Rameir Omer koinamos kishvuais elo koinamos itztarufa yudlo mitztarfi ha meila isbu. Is that true? Ask the Gemara of Amar Rameir. Amar Rameir, excuse me, imila but koinamos kalal. So says the Gemara. Classically, you're right. That's what Rameir said, but that was a response. Explains the Gemara. Lidivrei and dirabanan kamaru. Lididi says Rami ein mila becomes klal nothing. But lidizchu according to you the Rabbanon says Rameir. Oidili mia she not at least admit the kainamais is kishvuais. Rabbanon shvuais ika the Rabinchas. Kainamais like the Rabinchas as we saw the bottom of Amud Aleph. The chalik is whether we have the din of Rabinchas or not. Amar Rava shvua shlayachal says the shvua will not eat. Vayachal and he eats. Offer dirt. Is that called achila? That's your pater. By Rava, b'shush la'echal offer. Bikama. Even though you since you use the terminology of achila, daite akazayis. Otema kiven to love komidi da achila in sheep. People don't eat dirt. Who b'chol shu you're going to be chayiv. Says the Gemara. We have to wait for aliyah navi b'siyat shmaya teku. By Rava continues the Gemara. Shvuah shleichal chartzon. If someone makes a shvuah, he will not eat a grape seed. Bekama. Kiva demit achlai de taruvas. You only eat grape seeds through a mixture. Tadaite akazayis. Oidama kivan. So I be achil. Loi be eine achlile. You don't normally eat a grape seed on its own. In shiadaite amashu. Says Imar Nachamu teku. We have to also wait for Leonav. Bai Ravashi. Nazir Shamashu Shleichal Chartzon Bekama. For Nazir says the shul not eat one grape seed. And Nazir, of course, is not allowed to eat any form of grapes. Become Kiva the Kazaisis or Daraisu. Why a Nazir wants to Kazaisis Daraisu? Kikamistaba, Ter Kamistaba. And therefore, L'chaira, he's adding on to the Isser Daraisa. So the Isser Daraisa was a Kazais, and then he made a Shvuah. L'chaira, it's even been Mashu, V'daitei Mashu. I don't know. Kima Damar Shleichal. Since he said I'm not going to eat, the word Achila Nachamol. Daitei Kazais. Tashema will bring you a Raish Shulach Avachal Nevela Shevet Shkatzim Ramas Simchayiv Rav Shimon Poiter Ravinaba. Amai Chayiv according to the Kama Moshe Min Mar Sinai. Rav Ushma Rav Yechon Adam Rav Koilel Devarim Amutar and Devarim Asur. Vereish Lakish Amariya Tamaiti Elu Mafarish Chati Shir Valiv Derabanan. Ibistam Valiv Derav Kiva Damar Demoiser Atzmai Bakolshu. So now articulates the Gemara 2 lines in the white lines. V'hanevela Demoshe Min Mar Sinai. T'chicharta Negavi Nazir Damya. And Nevela Klabe every person is the same thing as a chartz and a grape seed, klabe and nazir. How is it the same thing that they're mushva v'ayim Har Sinai? And yet, what do we just say? The time of the parish, you explicated, you said explicitly. Hayle parish, no. Says the Gemara, al gavaldik araya. But 1 second, points out the Gemara, elativsha devayi Rava. If this is true, let's answer up the shayla that Rava asked. Shua shaychal afar become a tivsha dar the ikazayis. Why? Tanavela kafar dam. Nevela is also like dirt. Time of the parish, the parish at the ikazayis says Merloi afar lav bar achilahu klal. Afar is not like dirt. Nevela bas achila va'arye ude Rav Yale says the Gemara fundamental chilik. Dirt, no one eats. And Nevela, of course, people eat. We Yidden cannot eat it, but it's not going to be the same thing. So you can't bring a raya. Pick it up from the Mishnah, B'siyata Dishmaya.